Hey, Internet. Hey, Twitch. Hey, YouTube. This is Nate. You can also call me Nathan. Please never call me Nathaniel. And you were looking at a frozen Discord. Now it should be good. With me, I have Tyler Klein. He is the publisher for Inanis, or one of the publishers for Inanis. It's an upcoming game. Just launched the Kickstarter last week. I've been doing some demo play of it. You probably saw already videos on YouTube about it. And the idea here... Hold on one second. Elena, would you, or would someone grab the door? Thank you. Kids getting ready for bed. Yeah, so we're going to jump into Inanis. I got through, I think I told you already, Tyler, I got through the highest level difficulty of the game. So
I think you did it perfectly. You had a flawless run on that, which we've actually never seen or accomplished in our own testing. So that was pretty cool.
Well, I guess slaving through Monster Train pays its dividends in other games. But yeah, so I also really lucky. I think had some really good patterns and draws. So maybe give a little bit of background. So where was the idea this game come from? I assume it came from, was it something from you or something from the developer or kind of both? What was the...
Yeah, so the developer, his name is Gabriel Hatcher. We had worked with him on something in the past, and then we had gotten to a point where we had really nothing on our plates, and he had been developing this game. He's also a published author, so he's got an incredible imagination, and we wanted to show as much lore in the demo as we could, but there just wasn't enough room for everything going on. But there's a lot behind the scenes there that'll be showed in the full game. So he came to us and said, I have this game, and it doesn't have art or anything, but here's the concept, here's how it works, here's the world behind it. And we had worked with him really well and trusted him a lot in his work ethic. So we just took it on. So we published it, we got funds together for art, took care of marketing, everything like that. And we had, because it was a small team, it's two of us that are publishing with it and him. We also had the opportunity to get into some design with him, and he really led it. We weren't like creatively controlling him, but we had a unique ability to get in and like actually give some good feedback and things as well. So that's kind of where it came, and that's how we got to this point.
I think when people first look at the game, this is something that you had made pretty clear when we had first talked about me doing a little bit of a showcase of the game, is it looks and feels like it's going to be a roguelite, but the reality is it's not really a roguelite. It's more of like there's a set story, there's a set series of encounters, and it's more about mastering those encounters than it is about, random encounters every time you play.
Right. Yeah. So we were worried people would think it was a roguelike because we're heavily inspired by them, Slay-the-Spire, Monster Train in particular. But it's actually a boss rush. The other big inspiration was Dark Souls a little bit. It's not a boss rush, but that was a heavy inspiration for lore in the boss fights. Cuphead, where it's basically all just boss fights. So that's actually where it is. So the deck building, there's no RNG with the deck building. You don't have to select from a number of cards each round and keep building a deck and try to make it happen. You get to custom build your deck right beforehand. So the skill is not in, am I going to get the right cards, and how do I plan ahead and predict what I'm going to have, and all the strategy that goes into a deck builder in that sense. It's, am I bringing the right cards, and then can I use them well, and what's going to happen in this fight? Because the fight itself is super difficult. So, no, it's not a roguelike. We have plans for some various modes, a boss rush mode, things like that are going to add that kind of feature, but we really have a developed lore base, a developed story, and a series of bosses we've planned out ready to go.
Okay. So on that note, so right now, I don't know if you're able to see, maybe I can share my screen on Discord as well so you can see a little bit what's going on here. I don't know if I can do this without also having to share my screen elsewhere. Where is it? Are you able to see that? Okay, I'm just gonna not show. Oh, can I not? Can I do it where I don't show this?
I'm seeing the game itself.
Yeah, I'm trying to get it to where it doesn't show it for me on my own screen. Oh, never mind. Okay. Maybe you can jump into the, well, it's probably fine. We'll just have a little bit of a duplicated window there. We'll have to live. But yeah, so I'm in the kind of entry area, right? And if I jump in now to this kind of first area, there's a lot of like interaction with different like meta things, like people. There's some events. In this early one, I would say there's not too much of that interaction goes directly into the actual gameplay, right? So nothing that you're doing right now is going to affect this first champion fight. What can people expect going into like the full game? Is the vision that there's more interaction between this meta game outside and the actual combats, or are they really just there to flesh out the lore and story?
Yeah, that's a great question. No, we have a lot planned for this to do things. So for example, if you go to the crossroads and you talk to the staff teacher, yeah, we can go there right now.
Yeah.
So in the demo, he says, I have nothing to teach you right now. You're not ready. Something along those lines. So he absolutely will teach you things as you progress throughout the real story. And what that means is he's going to teach you new card sets.
Okay.
And give you more arsenal. As well as there's spirits. They don't play a big role here. They're briefly mentioned, but they're basically a passive buff you can choose to help customize your deck as well. You'll get that. And so NPCs are going to play into a lot of that kind of stuff. Some NPCs are going to turn into a fight. You least expect it. Plans for that. And there's so many things we can do. I mean, you notice like everything's dealt like a hand of cards.
Right.
And so we have conversations about some NPCs where maybe you have to actually draft a deck of conversations and work through them in a game sense, things like that. But then their secondary function as well is lore.
Okay.
Lore across an interactive manner.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense. And as I said, I think it's one of the things that for people that are coming into the game, there are some deck builders now that have definitely gone heavy on story. And like most recently, you have Tainted Soul? I can't remember exactly what it's called, but yeah, there's a few. Yeah, Tainted Grail and Griftlands. But again, they're more still deck builders, a little bit random encounters. This is really about like there's going to be a set story. You're going to get through the game. And then you mentioned that there are going to be other modes that you try to develop as well, probably depending on like funding and what you can do with the game. But in terms of replayability, so is there going to be, or is there plans, I should say, plans to have like different branching paths through the story? So like if you played it again, you could go in completely different directions, or what's your feeling right now based on the current development of the game in terms of like diversity and different playthroughs?
Yeah. So when it comes to the story aspect about it, at least what's going to be very concretely said, and there's going to be a ton of story you can ooze into and find as you're going to piece it together. We really intend for you to fight and defeat all the bosses we planned in their role in that. So as far as a branching path there, and maybe fighting some and not the others, that's not in the plans. However, the cards themselves are going to have an upgrade tree. And so that right there offers a lot of variety and replayability. And how exactly that looks, we have it pretty mapped out, but I'm not going to speak into that too much, just because it's a lot of moving parts. But there will be this tree. So as you're upgrading your cards, kind of like I just played Slay-the-Spire recently. It's on my mind. So when you upgrade those cards, it just boosts everything basically and makes them more effective. Similar to that, but it also will push cards different directions. So maybe your fireball attacks do more damage but a shorter range, or you can pick an option where they are much more versatile but do a little bit less, that kind of thing. And so you have these paths for your cards themselves. That's where replayability is going to be. And then in addition to that, we have the soul modes, which are just the different difficulties. Now the one in the boss fight is essentially in the demo just tougher. He hits harder, he has more health, you have less health, he gets more defensive. But in a lot of fights, they're gonna take on more moves. They're gonna have more abilities they can do. This first one's a perfect one for the demo because it's a straight brawl, but a lot of bosses are going to have different kind of ways you have to interact with him and fight around them as you do this. And so those soul modes, those difficulties, will also really engage the players in a new way. It won't just simply be a harder mode or something like that, if that makes sense.
No, that makes a lot of sense. We can get into combat a little bit later. Let's maybe talk about this right now. So this deck building, so unlike other deck builders where you like precision pick every single card in the deck, is the setup here intended to be kind of the setup long term? So you're picking kind of bundles of cards and you're selecting which bundles of cards you want to take into each combat.
Yeah, so this is there's a little bit to that. So this is something we actually were inspired from a different card game, a physical card game. But what we really loved about that game was when you take your favorite cards, they came with 3 other cards that maybe were chaff. Or you had 1 great card for your combo, but then you had to deal with 4 cards that maybe weren't great, and you had to really plan around that. And so that's the base game right now, is you're going to be playing with these sets. And then eventually, though, you do unlock card by card precision. And that's going to play differently in some different bosses. On one hand, I mean, they may just be so hard it doesn't always matter that much. You could have the best cards and still struggle. But they're just going to play differently like this. But here, basically, I mean, I could tell you what cards people would pick if it was 1 by 1, but the fact that you have to take on the less efficient cards, you just have to deal with mistakes. You have to handle that and know what you're going to do if you don't draw the perfect synergy. So it will... Sorry, that was a long answer.
No.
The base of the game is going to be this, and then it'll graduate to single card selection when the mechanics allow for that flavor.
No, I think that makes perfect sense. And I think from a player development too, I can certainly say that a lot of players, when they jump into these deck builders for the first time, knowing what cards to take becomes a struggle. And I think there's a lot of value in kind of giving people less choice at the beginning, forcing them to kind of learn the mechanics and then layer on strategic elements later. I actually don't hate that as a concept at all. So, and certainly that plays out here. I mean, just personally, Augury, I wouldn't say it's mandatory, but it's certainly one of the best cards in the entire deck, just being able to know what the guy's going to do. But it comes with, I would say, at least 2 of the least valuable cards, establishing a pattern and clearing the mind. I think clearing the mind, I ended up appreciating a little bit more once I learned how the draw mechanic worked. We'll get into that a little bit more when we get into the combat. But certainly, Augury is a standout here. Fireball is the easy standout over Firebolt. You have, I would say here, all 3 were kind of situationally good. Sidestep, the randomness of that sometimes became problematic. Offensive forms, you would usually yeet out Spinning Blow pretty early. So I kind of got that when I was playing. At least a sense of what I liked in terms of my setups and what cards I didn't like. So yeah, as I said, I think that's perfectly reasonable.
And they'll
go ahead.
Change a little bit. Oh, sorry, I didn't interrupt you.
No, you're just fine.
Go to normal movements to show those cards.
Uh-huh.
So like dodge actually is not that crazy good in this fight because that center row in the boss fight's really dangerous. So you're usually going to want to sidestep anyways. But in other boss fights with different layouts and different moves, dodge maybe becomes way more useful, and the RNG of sidestep becomes way more of a risk. So in some cases, these are going to be changing. Fireball, Firebolt shoots 10 spaces. It doesn't really matter in this fight, so you only want fireballs. That's going to shift in other fights. So these card sets are going to become a much more... They themselves will evolve a lot for each fight, depending on what's going on with the boss.
Maybe this is too soon to say, but currently we get 3 sets. Do you have like a target range of the amount of cards you want people to carry in their decks? I would say it's relatively trim compared to what you see in some games. I mean, Slay-the-Spire, you could sometimes get easily 20 plus cards. Monster Train, easily up to 30 sometimes, even in high level play. Here we're talking about what, like 5 cards here. Yeah, 5 cards in each set, so about 15 cards. Is that kind of your target deck size, or is there going to be flexibility there as you get later on to the game?
So the tempo of the fights is where that comes in. So this fight especially, 3 card sets was ideal. So for the sake of a demo, we just made that the option. It just made that not a question and something that was confusing. The tempo I refer to is the fact that you have to totally destroy a card every turn. And so if you have 15 turns, and that's usually plenty, but if you bide your time, you're being careful, too careful, you're not going to fight, you're going to run out of cards, and then you're literally just a sit and die. I mean, we didn't make it an end state. We said, now you just got to eat blows till you die. Like, that's just kind of what we wanted to give the feeling of. But as future bosses happen, the ability to add more card sets is totally already built out, something we can do. Especially when it comes to tempo. Maybe a boss, we have the bosses pretty planned out, but I'm just going to throw examples out without getting into the weeds of each one. Maybe a boss makes you burn 2 or 3 cards a turn. Well, then we're definitely going to let you bring more. Maybe they're just longer fights, and we have that tempoed out to be a longer. And so we've built it out so we can totally expand on it. The average pace for a boss would be 3 card sets.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yep. No, that makes a lot of sense. Think about anything else around the meta. So you're going to be able to customize your decks. You're going to be able to customize what ability you bring in. I think this one, the ability is you get an extra action point per turn. Any other layers of customization that you can talk to today without spoiling anything?
I don't actually think so. Now,
Okay.
there's going to be certain things that change with bosses if you do things with NPCs, like how you talk to an NPC may change something in the boss fight, and that, I mean, it won't be super hidden, to be clear.
Right.
So that will, it's kind of customization, but we have over 100 cards already mapped out and planned. Obviously, there's not that many in demo, and then the spirits we have several as well, and so that already is so much to get your head around, and then each boss is a different kind of fight. So that's the customization plan right now, just to remove unneeded complexity. Then there's like A/B path things we talked about, maybe an NPC action changes something. That would just be like customization.
And you did mention that the cards themselves will have some upgrade trees within them as well to branch out what the card can do. Is that like linear, as in like, or is there? I get that you mentioned that there could be some branching where you could have a card be more versatile, be more damage heavy, be like those kinds of things as well.
Right. So your question is it linear, like just the next level, then the next level?
Yeah, exactly.
Branching? Yeah. So they'll mostly be branching.
Okay, so it'll be decision side grades. You have to pick a choice, what you think is going to benefit your decks more. So you have those are the main layers then. So it's the meta structure of how you upgrade your cards. It's interaction with NPCs. It's the decks or cards you bring into the different combats. It's the different what did you call them again? The stars. What are they? Spirits, that's right, spirits. Yeah, I was just thinking because it's a star symbol. But yeah, the spirits. Okay, very cool. So then let's jump into the combat itself. We'll do it... what could my brain handle right now while I'm talking at the same time? Let's do Soul 2. I think that should be pretty reasonable. So tutorial just gives you a really false sense of security with this fight because you come in, he's taking double damage no matter how you hit him, and you have a lot of health. He's got... still more health, but not... he's not going crazy. I would say on normal mode, it's a pretty rude awakening for people that blaze through the tutorial. And now going into the higher souls. I guess one of the first questions is, so grid here, is this fixed, or do we see boss battles with different grid structures than this, or is it all going to be this kind of 3x7 grid?
Totally changing. So this is a tight, compact tavern, and this guy is just drunk and charging. So that's what we have like this. That's why the center row is so dangerous. We're gonna have fights with just more squares, more tiles, and bigger bosses, maybe one that's more central and almost fixed. He does things around him.
Okay.
We have some planned where there might be 3 sets of these, and you're bouncing between them after the boss. We've talked about doing hexes on one actually. We're talking through, so that's totally gonna change. The mechanics are gonna be the same. The way it interacts with each fight's going to be different.
Okay. So let me just pick a starting square here. I don't know if there's a strategy coming from you guys who built the game. I tend to go top middle in this fight. I found that to be kind of the safest position. And a couple things that I would say was not aware of, and I guess this is a question as well. There was some tutorializing, but there's a lot of different mechanics that were definitely not covered in the tutorial. Is the plan to kind of go for the self-discovery, or is it really intended to be, or do you expect that you're going to layer on more tutorializing as the game continues?
It's kind of a mix. Can you give me an example, though?
Yeah. So I wasn't aware that I could just bash away the broken glass that he puts on the ground. So that wasn't obvious to me until later, until I saw him do it. So he did his whirl, took out 2 of the glasses, and I was like, oh, that's why they're disappearing. And then I learned that I can break them myself if I do an attack that hits that square.
So the answer is really kind of both. One thing that's been really valuable, we play tested a ton before launching, but just the amount of players that play it now find things. So there's a couple things that we're realizing need to be spoken more clearly, just to make them more efficient and less of a dumb mistake in that sense when somebody makes a problem or has a problem. but it is heavily a self-discovery thing. That is something we really, really value in games. They won't. We're avoiding the punishing, like nothing you do matters if you don't know what's going on. It's impossible to learn. That's part of why we have training mode. It's totally an awakening when you go to, or a rude awakening when you go on. But you can just dodge around and watch movesets and kind of just learn what does he have in his skill set, or she, future bosses.
Right.
But yeah, it is meant to be a lot of self-discovery. One game that really, really inspired us with theory from the boss fights is everything Soulsborne. The developer especially has played all of those, like in and out, and we've all played them too in the publishing team. So a lot of that is just you just suddenly walk in on a boss and it's like, hey, what do I do? What does he do? You don't know, and you just have to try and learn. We really wanted that self-discovery to pay off in the end, and we finally figured it out. So does that answer your question?
No, it's exactly right. I think, to be honest, I kind of like that. There were certain things. I mean, obviously, part of it is pattern recognition, right? So, yes, he has some RNG. This is what I could tell, and I assume this is going to be true of most boss battles. There's certain turns where he's going to be randomized, is what I've noticed, and then there are certain turns where he has a fixed move. Like he's going to do this thing every third turn. He's going to do this thing on the sixth turn, but in between that, he could do a lot of different things. And that variety kind of mixed of more set things and more RNG things, something that you're going to have to learn as you play the different boss battles, I think. But then exactly all these interactions. I mean, one of the ones, and I got it because I read the lore. I don't think not everybody read all the lore caught this, that he takes double damage from behind. And on higher soul levels, he takes no damage unless it's from behind.
Right. Yeah, it's in the lore itself. It's a little heavy-handed.
Yeah, I noticed.
It was kind of a last-minute thing when we were getting the demo ready before we prepped the other stuff with Kickstarter. We realized that just wasn't quite as clear. So we originally had it in the tutorial, but then it was just like dumb. So it's a little heavy-handed. It won't always be the clue in italics.
Right.
But there'll be a lot more going on leading into the bosses. A lot more NPCs, a lot more development as well. So anyway. So yeah, but lore in itself is going to have a heavy role in how you discover, but ultimately defeat the bosses. Absolutely going to be a thing.
All right, so let me just pick a spot. I'll pick my favorite spot, which is this upper middle spot. And so is this opening turn here where you break your things? This is like in every combat you have to do this?
Yeah, what it really is, for the most part, is just having some flash.
Okay.
Putting your cards. Like a deck build, your cards go to this card and they shuffle in. So it's the opening turn, you can see the 3 moves that you've had, and they go to your discard. That's really what that's about. Now, there are some ideas around us of how we can incorporate maybe not playing every moveset right away. And you do 2 and hold on, and in some ways, brainstorm to incorporate that as a subtler mechanic. But for the most part right now, it's just the ability to remind yourself what you've got in your deck. Okay.
All right, so we'll go ahead and give him his chance. He's going to always start with his belligerent throws, where he throws these broken glass bottles all over the ground here. So then, maybe talking about this, I mean, I got myself in some stuck spots. I would say the better that I got at this, the less often that happened, certainly. And as I got used to some of his patterns, like it got a lot better, but obviously you can get draw screwed here. Just in your experience, I mean, you've only had this one battle to go off of from seeing how other people play. Do you think currently, just this fight alone, there's a good balance between like every single randomized seed is winnable, or do you think that there's positions right now you've seen streamers play or other people play where you'd say, okay, yeah, they just got screwed and there was no way to win? That's something that's come up a lot in other games as well, is like, do you get into impossible seeds?
Not by accident. At least if you know what you're doing. When you're learning, you might. So the seeds themselves, to speak into that in like a procedurally generated mindset, the only randomness really, at the beginning especially, is just how you draw your cards, the first 5 cards. You could probably get one shot at right in the beginning on the highest mode where you have maybe 1 health, but that's still, I've never had that happen to me. You could probably draw a dead hand, but it's never happened to me, so it's technically possible. um, but not something I've experienced, not something anyone in the dev team's experienced, and I've personally not seen that in all the streams we've jumped in. I'm sure it could happen. But outside of that, though, you get yourself in tough spots and you get stuck because you're choosing to destroy the wrong cards. Or really, the whole game is based around a lot of risk reward. We really love that concept. So you're destroying cards is a risk. You get something you need later. Maybe you destroy the wrong card from 5 turns from now. And you have to plan ahead for that. And then where you go, you may choose to get in line with him and get some shots on and hope he doesn't come and smack you. So that's where the stops come, is when you misplay what you're doing with your total deck destruction and the risks you take. But then it definitely clearly becomes a point of like, well, he's going to kill me right now. Or you draw a dead hand at that point. That's where dead hands come in, is that maneuverability is not totally there because you destroyed all your movement or something like that.
Yeah.
Since even here, like, one thing we really worked on with opening moves, he opens with 2 moves typically. But both of them won't harm you right now.
Right.
I hope I don't even know words here.
He normally will do a drunken charge, hit this, or he'll hit here and then run forward and hit here. Those have been the 2 that I've seen.
Right. I'm hoping Soul 3 mode didn't change that a little bit, but
I'm in Soul 2. I'm in Soul 2. So Soul 3, he would come in and rock my world. There's nothing I could do. But Soul 2, I should be fine. So I'm going to do, what I'll do here is just to talk to that, and this is what I've been noticing and kind of planning around, right? So why is establishing a pattern really good? Well, establishing a pattern allows me to now, let's say, copy a retreat, sweep, get rid of all this crap, and now I can kill one of the retreats, and I actually didn't actually lose a card, right? So he's going to strafe and jab, he'll run forward, strafe and jab, and no harm, no foul.
And for the record, I don't think Soul 3 mode you're stuck either. I think you actually are fine there. But I was just looking at your hand and saying, like, you're still safe this turn.
So what I'm going to do now, this is a little bit tricky. I think what I'm going to do is spinning blow. I'm going to retreat. There's a really good chance that he drunken charges. There's not a lot I can do about it, but if he's going to drunken charge, I'd rather have me already on the back because he'll do 1 less damage. Otherwise, he'll hit me on the way and then hit me at the back. So I'd rather just have him hit me once.
What could have happened last turn is you, instead of attacking, I think you did a spinning blow, you could have played planned move.
That's true.
I know what his first turn move is, and so I'll prep for the next turn to have a space to dodge.
The other thing that's also really just a good note here that I didn't realize until much later is you only drop to 5. So if you keep your hand full, you get rid of 1 card, you will draw exactly 1 card. But if you can get rid of your whole hand and you need brand new cards, play your whole hand out. Like something that I was not doing was I kept keeping lots of cards in my deck and then wondering why I never got my movement cards.
And that's precisely one of the things we will put a little tutorial blurb in right there. Because that's not a mechanic you're discovering. That's like a prerequisite, and we just got so used to it. And most card games work that way, so we just didn't think about it. But totally something we want to do.
Okay, so this could be really tricky. We're going to augury. He's probably... Oh, I get to move. That's right. This is good. This means that at least if he does his thing, which actually no, it's turn 3, so he's going to go to the middle and spin around. And what I'm going to do now is just so I don't lose any cards. There's nothing in here that I particularly hate. Let's get rid of the distraction, clearing the mind, so we can clear our hand. He'll do his dance, and then we can kind of move from there. Luckily, I do have a pretty good shot at his back if I can hit him and then get away. So charge forward. Oh, you know what I can actually do? This seems like the best play. So I'm going to... Oh, wait, no. I want to hit him from behind. So I'm going to dash forward, whack him in the back, and then I'm going to dash all the way to the side so that I'm out of the way. No matter what he's going to do, he's not going to do it this way. This is something that I noticed. And we can get rid of...
his R&B sets on your last location.
So now he's exactly going to do this. Nonsense. And now I've got to make... It's like a risk reward here. I can try to hit him, but there's a good chance if I hit him, he'll hit me back. I guess I could see I have augury. He's going to drunken charge. So what I like is... I want to be right here so that I can sweep him on my turn and then try to get away with double step. So I'm going to retreat. Oh no, I can't get there with double step. Oh no, I can, but I have to get rid of one of these 2. Let me think. You know what? We'll do this. We'll go here and back. And we'll end. And I'm going to get rid of the retreat. He'll run forward. Now I can sweep him. Oh, I'm off by 1. I didn't read the card right. Awkward. We'll just go 1 forward and then whack him and hope that he doesn't hit us. He shouldn't, though. Normally, this has been a pretty safe place to be for me. There you go. So these sayings, is this just this combat, or is this something that's going to happen occasionally where, you know, they do a thing? I mean, obviously, there's been the ones where they add cards to your deck because they hit you or something like that. But I'm assuming that, like, them interacting with your deck is going to be a common theme in a lot of fights.
Yeah, it's something we like. Exactly what the card would look like. Like, these are just trash talk, basically, from a drunk in a bar fight, right?
Right.
It clogs up your hand. So that theme is something we really like. And then what it'll look like text-wise will be different.
There's a pretty good chance he'll kill me here, but we're gonna go for this. Also, I just realized I could have gotten rid of the thing he said. Oh, belligerent throws. We're good. Fantastic.
That's one of the step moves. When he trash talks to you, he's gonna do belligerent throws next.
Ah, okay. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Let's run forward, do a quick sweep. We got him about halfway. And I'm going to do scan the field. I think having the movement options here becomes really valuable. What are you going to do, my friend? He is not going to get to me. So where I want to be... I don't have a great way to get there, but I can do this, and then planned move. Get rid of a retreat. And at least I am relatively close to being able to get him. Okay, so we can move 1 forward. I think I even like just charge forward 1 and sweep him from behind. I found this, like he really struggles, like when you're kind of close-ish to him, but like just behind him, he really struggles to find a good place to go where he can get you. Oh, Haymaker. The only good thing about this Haymaker is that I can sweep him for 1, and then I can dash to the other side. And we now have a permanent concussion in our deck. Okay, what is he going to do? Strafe and jab. He's going to come all the way to there. So my preferred position is right here. We'll go planned move, and we'll get rid of a concussion. And if we're lucky, we can kill him now. We are, unfortunately, moderately lucky. But this should be a turn where he cheers, right? 1, 2, 3. He's drunken charge, strafe. I can't remember. I haven't done the math.
I haven't been counting, so I can't tell you. I don't know.
You know what we'll do? We'll just go like this. Get him a good whack. Unfortunately, I cannot charge forward because you have to have space. This is one thing. I'm sure it's a UI thing, but just being able to like see where you're moving.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. So if we get any damage card, could be dangerous. Where's he going to go? Belligerent throws. So he's going to be aiming that way. We want to go forward. Get this out of our hand and burn that. So any attack should kill him now, and we got a sweep. So, I mean, I would say in that combat, where I literally just grabbed a bunch of random stuff and threw it into my deck and didn't even know what cards I had, and the fact that, you know, we're playing on level 2, I feel like I could do that pretty consistently, which I think was a lot of the criticism that came out. And I thought about it for a long time, but I think it's one of those where you only have 15 cards, so you have a relatively light deck to begin with. He's only got a certain amount of moves, which you can predict pretty reasonably. He's only going to do like 1 or 2 things on his RNG turns, right? So he has his set turns, and then his RNG turns are either strafe and jab or drunken charge. That's basically all he's ever going to do. So I actually didn't hate it. I thought I was going to hate the more that I played it, the more I thought I was going to hate the fact that he doesn't show what he's doing. But I ended up not disliking it as much as I thought. I don't know. Was there a lot of discussion around that, whether to go the route of all the other games and just like show what people are doing, or how did that develop?
A ton, totally, yeah, absolutely. We tried both. We prototyped both ways. One thing that we realized, at least in our opinion, has made knowing the boss's next moves in most games, most deck builders at least, so riveting, was that usually it's really hard to avoid them. So it's less of a get out of the way and more of like, what can I do in my hand to stop this carnage coming? Or it's, I got a rest turn, how can I maximize this turn of rest? Things like that. And there's some games that do a little bit of verticality and stuff, but for the most part, because we have tile movement, you realized you absolutely knew what they were doing. Hey, there's less self-discovery as far as what is he going to do and having you predict things and risk reward. And two, it's just that much easier to move around a lot of the moves we had planned for this guy. So we realized it was actually a lot more compelling as you're doing. Now, you ran through this pretty well, and you've also played it a lot, right? So it's not the idea that RNG is so bad that it's Soul 2, Soul 3, you always lose. It's that you've learned it well, so then you can confidently get him there. So that's something to clarify too. It's not that it's always going to be challenging. It's fun to replay in that sense. It's replaying tons as you figure it out, and then when you get to there, you have that confidence, like I can conquer this guy consistently at this point. But yeah, that was the main thing. The draw for us in knowing the boss's moves were couldn't do much about it. You had to make the best of the situation, and it just didn't play out nearly as fun here, and it gave kind of an interesting twist to this idea of having your cards and what they're going to do.
Yeah, I think it just once I got that mind shift around, because I thought about this in like a typical Monster Train style, right? Like if I'm going to do a Monster Train run, not knowing what's going to happen, my first time would be incredibly frustrating. But when I reframed my mind to think like, okay, this is not a roguelite. This is a story-based game where you're trying to master combats. It's similar to like when you've played through, as you said, Dark Souls. You played through Dark Souls, you come back and you play through Dark Souls again, and suddenly you're beating bosses that you're not intended to beat, like, right? So like Bloodborne. I go back and play Bloodborne and you beat the werewolf in the opening room because you're good enough at the game. Like that's kind of where I see this landing, is more of like this is a game where you master these combats. It's not a game where you're going to do a whole bunch of random runs and get generally good at strategizing at the game. No, you're mastering each combat as its own combat, which I think is a little bit different perspective. And I think what, for a lot of people that would come from a deck builder, would have to kind of reset their frame in order to come into the game and enjoy it and not get frustrated by the RNG element of it.
Totally. And there's plenty of learning and growth in any deck builder, right? But it's knowing what are the cards that are going to be available down the road. What am I taking now? Having to predict that. So we've removed that, but we've exchanged it for, can I predict what he's going to be doing next so I don't get totally smashed?
Do you worry a little bit about, like, I mean, net decking is a problem in games like Hearthstone and others. Do you worry that this game gets to the point where, like, people have just solved it and then you just go online and you read, this is what you enter, this is how you play it out?
Yeah, I mean, any game has guides and stuff. And if you want to play that way because you want to get the story that much easier, like, that's cool. If you don't care and it's just like because the answer's there and you feel good getting the answer, I don't know, that's probably not our target audience. But I mean, if you're just stuck. Now, one of the things about this game that we've done is there's going to be 3 areas, and each area is going to have 5 or 6 bosses. So if you're going against Chester, this guy, and you can't get by him because you haven't figured it out, you can still go to another boss. Another boss. Now, each boss is also going to unlock more cards and stuff. So you can net deck a thing, but you won't have every card in the card pool from boss 1 either. But yeah, honestly, the answer is probably just not our crowd then. Or if they get stuck and we still want them to see the rest of the game, then yeah, of course, figure it out, get past this boss and go to the next one.
So in a lot of ways, it is a lot like Cuphead in terms of the meta setup, where you have some freedom in how you tackle the bosses, and there are things you get from certain things that can cross over and help. But in general, you get to pick the pace. I assume not all the way to the end, but at least for the majority of the journey, you kind of get to pick the pace and who you want to fight and things like that.
Exactly. You get stuck on one guy, you go to the next.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's actually Cuphead's probably the most apt way to describe this. I think that's a good way to set it because that really is boss rush, mastery, and it's not going to it's like it's all about the tactical setup, which I think a lot of games miss. It's actually one of the reasons why I like Monster Train so much compared to even Slay-the-Spire. Is Slay-the-Spire, I would say strategically has more layers than a lot of games, but tactically it's so simple. There's not too much to the tactical combat. You play the cards, and yeah, you can change the order, and it might have some minor change, but it's really not a very tactically layered game. Monster Train's a lot more layered than that, and I would say this is even more layered than that. That's the entire focus is how to play this out tactically using a limited amount of cards, a limited amount of actions, trying to maximize each turn. Yeah, very different targets and very different emphasis on where a good player will shine, I think.
Yeah, just trying to push a different part of your card playing brain.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, we went through the fight. Anything else that you would want people that are interested in the game? Obviously, I will mention again. I mentioned it already. I'll put it in a link in the video. If you're watching on stream, you can look it up by the game's title. But there is a Kickstarter running right now. I think your target was $25,000. Is that the current goal? With the majority of that going to art, right? Art and some of the just to make the game more live.
Yeah, the art's the big holdup. It's super expensive, and to find a team that's really good that can get a price right. So that's a big holdup. When it comes to programming, development out, we have that, or development and programming. We have that in spades with the team. The game itself is prototyped pretty darn far already, designed out. It's really just getting the pieces to make them look like they need to. Sound and music. I'm the composer on the project, and sound I hire that out pretty easily with people. So that stuff's actually, a lot of games struggle to get good programming and stuff for music, but we have that. It's mainly art. Once we get the art in to really make the game look like we will want it to look like, and to draw the feeling we want out of it, that's the big holdup.
So great. So then, yeah, if you're watching, as I said, if you're watching on YouTube, the link is in the description to the Kickstarter. I believe the kind of base level reward is at $20. That's to get the base game. I think there are early birds are already out, if my understanding was right on the date. So I think it's at the $20 mark now to get the game early. When do backers get access to the demo already, or is that something that's going to come later? What's the plan there?
Yeah, the demo is a link right at the top of the page.
Oh, that's right. Okay, so they can actually play it immediately. So if you're thinking about this, not sure about it, not sure if you'd like this kind of game, highly recommend, give it a try. Download a copy of the demo, play through this combat, see if you can beat it all the way at the highest difficulty level. And with that, I think we'll end here. So appreciate, Tyler, you taking the time also to talk through the game. Really enjoyed playing the demo. Best of luck with the Kickstarter. Hope everything goes well. And if we do move forward, would be happy to jump into the game again. So really enjoyed my time and would love to see more of it.
It's been great having you play through it, do some content. We really appreciate it. And thanks for having me on the stream. We had a lot of fun watching it and talking. So anytime.
Excellent.
We'll keep you updated.
Yeah, please do. All right, thanks everybody. So we'll end this video. I'll be back with some more Monster Train after a short break. And yeah, with that, we'll see you guys in future episodes. Thanks for watching.